guys. Thanks for being here. I know we're competing against the King and the Pope, so it's a tough competition, but we appreciate it. And thanks for, hopefully we're going to be for a great conversation about robotics and embodied intelligence. Before starting, I would love to maybe get a quick kind of like a couple of words about the companies and what you guys do. So maybe starting with Thalia and Compass.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks so much. My name is Thalia Raffaelli. I'm a general partner, founding partner of a fund called Compass VC. We're a European-wide investment firm investing in early-stage opportunities across the physical industries. That means that we invest in areas around manufacturing, robotics, energy, and what we call the built environment. So really focusing on resilience, productivity, and where we can also save on energy, so decarbonization as well. We invest normally around seed Series A globally, so a lot of our investments are out in the US and in Canada as well, so we have a good bird's eye view of some of the geographical challenges in between different ecosystems. Yeah, that's us.
So if you listen out through the whole conversation, you might get a ticket from her. So I am responsible in the region of Madrid to make technology, let's say, accessible to companies and just for citizens as well to be upskilled. So I have the government role in this conversation, and I'm responsible for the digital strategy of the region of Madrid, which you all know it's an absolute missile and a rocket that is going amazing. So it's just like, we'll be bringing the government perspective into the call.
Thank you for having me this year again. My name is Mar Masuli. I am the CEO and co-founder of Bitmetrics. We provide robots and machines with flexibility and perception capacities, which is now called physical AI.
Amazing. And then myself, I'm Christian, investor at Daphne. I'm also the co-founder of Pluto House, which is the largest physical AI specialized hacker house in Europe. So we help over 100 founders navigating the journey from starting a robotics company and getting their first funding checks from funds like Compass and so on. And then, so to get started, I think robotics is definitely not a new subject. I think robots have been around our lives for a while, but now, out of the sudden, or not out of the sudden, it became a very strong hype cycle associated with generative AI and then the whole kind of physical AI subject. More for, like, if you could educate us, what is the difference between traditional robotics and intelligent robotics or physical AI?
Absolutely. Well, traditional robotics has been in the market for like 60, 70 years, and nothing has changed, actually, because the physical part of the robot, now we're talking about humanoids. We have a different subject here, but if we talk about industrial robotics, we talk about systems that do a repetitive task that is replacing manual tasks that people had to do before. With perception coming along, what we are doing is giving flexibility to a robot or to a machine to be able to adapt to changes, not only in context in which they might interact with humans, but also in different pieces, objects that they need to deal with, and well, providing the same level of productivity. Well, I think humanoids are getting all the headlines today, but behind that, there is the software capabilities, which is enabling, in reality, the new generation of machines. Having said this, also new components, batteries, and so on, that are letting robots and other machines to perform and deliver results, which is all about that.
Amazing. And then, Thalia, you've been an investor for a while. You've seen this shift. What are the kind of key changes that physical AI create that makes you excited about that makes you think that this is a truly transformational wave for the economy?
I think what I love about technology, I've been an investor for 16 years. What I love about technology is that you have these cycles that sort of repeat themselves and they become kind of the similar developments, but they take on a new name. Now we're in the age of robotics and a lot of developments in technology that are allowing companies to roll out and deploy robots. Before I founded Compass, I led investments and innovation for the Volkswagen Group, specifically for Porsche. And so 10 years ago, we were working on essentially perception technologies for the vehicle, right? We all thought that the cars were going to be self-driving cars by 2020. all the developments in computer vision and machine learning, everybody was really excited, and then comes the wave of reality when you realize, oh, there are so many different dimensions to the technology that may hinder adoption. So I think we're seeing something very similar right now in physical AI. There is an entire new layer of technology, which is essentially the perception layer, the VLA models, essentially where robots are seeing, hearing, and acting. And you're talking about a world of stochastic models. And it's a super, super interesting time to be in this space, but it will be interesting to see over time, and I think we'll see this in the coming years, of how much hype is actually going to be deployed versus understanding that sometimes these things take time, and there's risk and certain threats that need to be overcome with technology as well. And that's why I think we're at a super exciting time right now.
Just to chip in, I know I have not been asked a question yet, but I think it's important to dissociate between robotics, the hardware, and what actually is being discussed now is the intelligence layer, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like, I know that the title of the call, it says just like the body of intelligence, but it's just like, now we're not discussing hardware. That we have been doing for many years. It's true that we need to improve because it's not easy to just like, the dexterity and everything is freaking complicated. Hardware has always been, for me, amazingly complicated. So kudos to everyone that does hardware, not sufficiently acknowledged. And then is the intelligence layer. And that's what's at risk, right? Because the intelligence layer, and I don't know if it will come later down the conversation, but it's not being built here. So it's just like, who's gonna be the one controlling the intelligence that is going to lead to all of the deployments, right?
Yeah.
So just like with the...
And it's a good hook for the next question, which was for you, and then for everyone as well, which is, in the physical AI, why is it, first, is it a crucial subject for European sovereignty? Do we need to master it? And if so, why?
Easy question. No, so it is very important. Why? I'm not going to mention the words hype or nothing, but it's very important because for me, I equate physical AI to, or the intelligence layer of robotics, however we want to call it. For me, is the operating system of the economy. So it will be like almost like what is going to run the economy effectively, no? So the physical layer of the economy. So that's why we need to be part of this, because someone, and it would be amazing that it would be us as well, is going to supervise all these robotic deployments. I know typically when we talk robotics, it's just like we have a very, let's say, proof of concept kind of orientation. We have a robot or a machine that does this task very well, but we have not managed deployment. So it's just like, I think it's going to evolve towards this deployment as a service. My mind goes a bit on it's firing a lot of things right now, but why it's important is because I see that it's going to be the operating system of our economy, led by the scarcity of employment on many topics. We can start by construction, we could be straightforward, but eventually, as the European population ages, it's going to also get into the elderly care, into hospitals, into whatever. And honestly, right now, I'm hardware agnostic. I'm just like quite obsessed. Let's say what gets me, let's say, nervous is just like that software layer of all these deployments that we're gonna. So we need to be. And I stop talking, I promise. It's just like, it's the same with AI adoption. Not even, so we are always talking about the automation and just like job displacement, and then that freaks out people. So it's just like, it's important, it's cool to sound cool, but it's also important to just like share the right message with people. It's just like, hey, on those places or sectors where we have job scarcity, this is going to be very useful. And of course, that would ease as well the adoption. Because right now, people are like, fuck no, I don't want anything to do with physical AI, nothing that has to do with AI, because it's going to attack me as an individual, as my identity, right? So we need to be very mindful of the speech we have.
Yeah, I think what he's saying, and I don't mean to interrupt, I just want to follow up on what he's saying, because I think it's super critical. Because what we have today is a point of lack of trust, right? We don't trust the deployment. You're feeling it kind of in the business. You kind of see how customers are taking on, the idea of deploying. But we need to replaced the word replaceability
Yeah.
to augmentation, right? It's labor augmentation, not labor replaceability. I think we're far, far, far from the day that humanoids are going to be working on the factory floor solely. I think in the next several decades, we're going to see robots augmenting our blue-collar work and a lot of the work that humans don't necessarily need to do, right? And so we can free up to do other things. And so sovereignty, to me, is not necessarily owning the foundational models and owning the technology. It's really about how can Europe as a continent become more sovereign in the industries that it is excellent at because there is labor augmentation.
100%. I think it would be a mistake. Sorry, Mar, perdona, es que ya me lanzo. I think it would be a mistake to go like, oh, I'm going to compete with the frontier labs on doing this general purpose 1x robot kind of thing, right? But as she was saying, it's just like we have very strong verticals for Europe, and it's just the same. I think it's the same playbook with general purpose AI, so to say. That is just like, hey, we need to master the distribution layer in a way.
I think general AI works for certain things, but you need the vertical, and that's critical. And on the other hand, also, why software is critical for the sovereignty of Europe? Because hardware, we lost the battle. I'm so sorry to say that, but we are 20 years far from what China is doing right now. So let's face it, let's move to the thing that can make us powerful and make the Western economies also rely on the systems that we have. And that is the vision that I think is more important. And this has to do with political stuff as well. No? Also reading about the investment that has been attracted by physical AI in the first quarter of this year, out of 27 companies that raised more than 50 million US dollars, only 3 were in Europe, the rest were in the US, and I think that's important to mention because we need to focus not on the fragmentation that the European economy has, but also on finding those players that could radically map what's coming next. And here we are.
You know, that is something actually that I'm also thinking about. Well, first, you touched on many things, and many, as you were saying, are political. One is that access to financing. Also, you were mentioning the test beds. It's true that I impersonating, let's say, government, but it's just like make it freaking difficult for you to deploy. So it's just like we need to work on that. Then the pools of money. US still, I know that this is very recurrent, but you have had last week a round of $65 billion, right? So it's just like, it's very difficult to attract that kind of capital, right? And then on the other, I lost track of what I was going to say. So it's just like, but it was a very important topic. So, but well, all in all, it will come back to me, I promise. I swear it has made sense.
Hey, I think...
yeah, excuse me, sorry.
Go ahead.
So about sovereignty, right? Of course, hardware battle, we are miles behind. You go to Shenzhen and you have your vertical 7 stores, and then you end up with a robot assembled in no time, right? But we need to think of what struggles we have faced as well. That call it data centers as well, if we are plugged unplugged, or these kind of things. So we would need to, and I'm not the expert there, but map which are the choking points, and could be rotors, it could be motors, it could be whatever we decide, but that we make sure that we have access to that kind of hardware if we fall out with US, or China does not longer supply this kind of things, right? And additionally, we have I am starting to visualize this kind of issue that is like, hey, okay, we need to be, Europe needs to be sovereign. Okay, but does that mean that we're going to be the wrong kind of sovereign and then we're going to go for 27 different champions? Like, is it every country going to find their master robotics company and then just like they're going to go for it? So, because that's also falling in fragmentation, right? So it's just like those kind of things, which sadly I don't have answers to, sorry. It's just placing the questions, are things to be solved.
Yeah, and of course, a part of the which hardware specifically fits for the robot also enters in the form factor. And then now when you see in terms of like capital raised, the humanoid form factor is gathering a lot of attention. You yourself use different form factors. So how do you guys see the evolution? Like, do you think humanoid is going to be the winning form factor? Or do you think that kind of like form factors fit for the use case are going to win, or we're going to see a mix of both?
If you have a look at what the A3, that is the American Automation Association, that I think has been the most active in conversations with the US Senate, and also what is the International Federation of Robotics are saying right now is we are seeing what she was telling, what Dalia was telling, we're seeing deployments in test-based. We are not seeing them operating 100%. I know we all saw a video on LinkedIn last week of 3 humanoids moving parcels, but those parcels as well were like limited. They were not so variable. So for the general audience, that might look like we are very close, they are going to be here the next minute, but that's not true. Because when you are working in the real world, one working station is, even if it is for the same company in the same industry, it differs from the next one. So the specifics of each integration need tweaking, and you need the engineering that has to be there to perform this customization.
And what are the technical challenges from going to a very nice demo to a fully reliable deployment? And then I know you have like over 50 deployments already at the company, so yeah.
Well, it is actually this, that there is no single operating environment. And in this case, for example, we are working with a big retailer. Even when we are putting robotic cells in 2 different floors of the same store, they are different. Yeah. So you just cannot standardize everything. But on the other hand, when you're training your models, when you're generating data that is going to make the robots work robustly, because they need to deliver. They need to deliver 24/7. Otherwise, they don't pay off. It is there, the challenge that you need to compete with. And I'm sorry, the last thing is about working without connectivity. We were talking about that before, but latency is what shuts the system sometimes, and that's not affordable. Yeah. That just cannot happen.
I see, you know what, it's like, sorry that we're killing your questions, but, but I just like reacting to what she says. It's very, typically when you're growing as a startup, regardless of the business, every deployment should make your product, kind of your deployment cheaper, right? But here that's the challenge. Like, how do you do that deployment kind of as a service in a way that every deployment teaches you to go
the flywheel
cheaper? Otherwise, you're not like you're not subjected to, you will be burning cash like crazy.
I think no one, no startup has this capillarity, geographically rich, to be at every single deployment of every single country. That's where the integration or the engineering companies play along. And I think what have been seen in the statistics, those are the companies that are growing, actually. Yes, in Europe, we had a lot of engineering companies working for the automotive industry. They are closing their doors. But there's a lot more. I mean, we were just thinking about robots when we talked about manufacturing, but we are seeing them in health, logistics, in retail. I mean, there's a lot to do beyond manufacturing.
And it's a good hook for Talia. I mean, you're looking into the physical space, and it's a lot of really hard problems to solve. And what are at Compass, and then yourself personally, what are the use cases and the verticals that get you the most excited for today? Where the technology is ready to solve problems today? And what are the ones that you are really excited for the future in 5-6 years?
I think we're doing a lot of work around a number of things. What are the catalysts that are going to get the technology adopted? If we think hardware is going to be commoditized, and we think the multi-billion-dollar companies are going to own the foundational models, what is the layer in between that will allow robotics to be adopted, right? So we talked about latency, so anything around strengthening edge AI, right? Strengthening decision-making at the edge and not having anything dependent on the cloud. Anything around compliance, governance, and cyber. So we don't talk enough about cyber in physical in the physical realm, but that's real, right? If you have a robot hallucinating, we need to find out, let's say, I don't know, we're not talking about lines of code anymore, right? We're talking about a robot arm that's applying, 50 Newton meters as opposed to 5 Newton meters, right? And that data doesn't provide that information on torque. So we need that foundational layer in between the models and the actual deployment to the physical. To build the trust, right? So I think for me, I see a lot of opportunity there. We're seeing some like really early stage, founders coming out, second time, third time founders focusing specifically on that because they understand that in order for us to build trust and for enterprises to build trust, right? A CISO, in order for them to go out and to deploy these mass machines, they need a lot of information, right? The feedback loops needs to be perfect. You need to be able to get the bus logs out of every single one of the OEM machines, and you need some kind of like horizontal API to be able to do that. We're no longer really in the world of just legacy vertical machines.
And you also need to train the workforce that is going to work with the robots, because right now you can see someone unplugging the whole system just because they don't like it. So.
And Ignacio, and for you guys, what are the use cases that you think it will change the life of a city and that will impact everyday lives of the inhabitants of Madrid?
So for me, the use cases that I see right now that are more straightforward are on construction sites. I deal a lot with data centers, and it's something that is just like very. But when I talk machinery, like the classical truck, that kind of thing, I think there is still space for teleops, in my opinion, right? When you come to a city, what we are struggling now is with a unified source of data to supply to the different companies. I have all traffic cameras, for instance. Where can I funnel that information for someone to train a model based on this kind of things? Also for railways or for infrastructure maintenance, all this, right? But for me, honestly, before going into that, I'm just like seeing a bit that will be for the startups to figure it out. It's just more on the adoption. I'm quite obsessed right now on how we're gonna bring. I know that is more the social side, but bring people on board this kind of adoption and transformation. Still years to come because there's a lot of challenges that we need to face before that. But it's just like, how am I gonna make people realize, and how I'm also going to negotiate with the unions as well. You don't think about the unions, but how am I going to negotiate with the unions as well to bring them on board to see that that there's going to be, from all this productivity enhanced, like social bargaining in the shape of, hey, increased wages, or how am I going to reskill the people that I'm going to potentially be phased out. So that is kind of what's kind of keeping me awake at night right now.
Amazing. And then this for everyone. So what are some of the big risks that you see that, let's say, Elon always says that we're going to have 1 billion robots in 10 years. He always throws big numbers around. But what are the risks of mass adoption of robots in society?
Coexistence, space, data, access to the internet, I think, you name it. I think components, I think a lot of stuff, but I don't really think that we will have them at home soon enough. That's my particular vision. I'm part also of the Spanish Robotics Association, and when we talk about service robotics, we see that like in the elderly care in hospitals, but not yet at home. Evidently, because of all these things that still need to be worked on, no? In terms of legislation or in terms of security, physical security. And also dexterity, because some of the things that are quite simple for humans are not that easy to perform by a robot that has a single end-of-arm tool, not a flexible hand like ours that can adapt to many tasks.
And just before opening for questions, to leave everyone with a good note, why should we be excited about a world full of robots? Intelligent robots.
There's a lot to be excited about. There's a lot to be fearful of as well. If anybody's read Isaac Asimov in the 60s. look, I think it opens up capacity for human creation and human optimization, right? If we have robots that are taking care of all of our low-level tasks, it frees us up to do amazing things. So to me, that's the boundaries are limitless.
I think if you look at what robots are doing right now, they are already freeing people from working with hazardous materials or contaminated stuff. So that's going to be potentiated. It will be reachable for all the nations maybe, and now it is only reserved to a few. So that's what I see for the future now.
For me, it's about, I'm just technology all in all, no? It's just like we still need to develop a lot of the stack that it has to be there for this to be real, right? But I do imagine a scenario, and that's why what I'm looking for is not like only the low value task, but it's just like that I have in the remote regions, because for instance, within the regional government of Madrid, we have 179 municipalities, right? Out of which 142 are under 20,000 inhabitants, out of which I could go like that, but 65 are under 1,000. So it's just like those places typically, and Madrid is quite concentrated as a province, but this problem could be replicated elsewhere. It's just like I see that we can lean on potentially, and that's what I'm excited about, on robotics to deliver critical surgeries that you don't need to come to the capital to do that. And then they're just like, for that you need the latency, connectivity, blah, 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 and all the hardware stack, whatever, no? But this enabling layer for those kind of services, I think is pretty cool, and also seeing it live. But I mean, I'm going to go for the most basic. I mean, I still want to see a Waymo equivalent here, you know, and just like call an Uber or a taxi and just like hop on a driverless. So just like I'm genuinely excited about that sci-fi thing that actually just like happens to me. If you rewatch Star Wars now, everything is here, right? So it's just like, why not dreaming about that, right? It's just super exciting.
Amazing. Thank you, guys. And then any questions from the crowd?
You are all... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Thank you for being brave.
Yes. I think the microphone's arriving. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you very much. My question would be, how do we protect the intelligence layer? So if we succeed in building up the intelligence layer, how can we protect it against the models behind it, Anthropic, OpenAI, to eat it up later?
That's not an easy question. I think, well, in our team at least, we're working with mathematicians to identify how we could use only data that is relevant to the model. I think your question goes beyond what is physical AI. You're talking about maybe ChatGPT or whatsoever, or systems that are recommending stuff that could have some bias or could have some danger inside. That's part of also the legislation that is being proposed in Europe. ADRA and some other organisms are working in that, and we are obliged to be compliant so that all of the solutions that are deployed in the market are safe for the human beings.
For me, that's my sovereignty concern. I know we need to finish, but it's just like I freak out about the intelligence layer, because right now it's either US or China, and you don't know which player is going to be ruling which country, right? So it's just like that intelligence layer, we should somehow being able to, I mean, us being Europeans, I guess that we will be playing the trustworthy, reliable kind of card and legislation. So I guess that there will be space for that. But that concern, I mean, fully resounds with mine as well.
And there's no global oversight, right? You have pockets. You have the EU AI Act. You have probably in the US, you'll see relative oversight. But there are so many other pockets that you cannot depend on, and so it's a very difficult.
And we will have to build the middleware, kind of like execution layer that kind of breaks down things that it's also able to get certifications in safety.
Actually, I think that's going to be the trigger for direct-to-device communications, maybe something that makes your system or your solution not to go through a common cloud that could be hacked or whatsoever.
Let's play the AI, I mean the same AI playbook that we're seeing now. hey, you have the frontier labs in the US, you have your Anthropic, your OpenAI, your whatever, you name it. Same for China, right? What are we doing in Europe as a whole, right? So we have told ourselves that, okay, we might not be building frontier models. We have the Mistral example, perhaps, but just like, perhaps. So we're not going to build those frontier models. We're going to master the distribution game. I mean, we can just say the same. At first stage in which we say, hey, we're going to be sovereign, we're going to be almighty, and we're going to be able to build all this robotics, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward, hey, we're not. And then it's just like, you need to master the distribution game. So in that, we will need those seals of approval, kind of a verifiable AI I have on my IT systems, for example. Yeah. And then just like to rule and to govern those deployments. That is a bit tricky.
And you have also really good talent here that actually by deploying, you collect data, and with the data flywheel, you can develop actually intelligent models for specific verticals, like Bitmetrics is doing. But thank you so much, guys. We already took time from everyone, and thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you a lot.